Welcome, and thank you for joining us on this journey through one of the darkest and most misunderstood periods in American history, the Salem Witch Trials of 1692. These trials, which have been ingrained in popular imagination, often evoke images of innocent people burning at the stake for supposed witchcraft. This tragic episode, based on superstition, fear, and mass hysteria, remains one of the most significant and controversial chapters in American history. Today, we aim to clear up some of the common misconceptions surrounding the trials, particularly the myth that the accused witches were burned at the stake. The Salem witch trials are a poignant reminder of the dangers of mass hysteria and the vulnerability of individuals in times of fear and uncertainty. Set against a backdrop of religious fervor, social tensions, and political instability, the trials led to the deaths of 20 people, many of whom were falsely accused of witchcraft. But the notion that these individuals were burned alive, a scenario perpetuated by movies, books, and cultural depictions, is a myth that we must confront and correct. To truly understand the events of the Salem witch trials, it's crucial to consider the historical and cultural context in which they took place. In the late 17th century, Salem Village, now Danvers, Massachusetts, was a Puritan community governed by strict religious and social codes. The Puritans were deeply devout and believed in the literal existence of the devil, which led to a heightened fear of witchcraft and the supernatural. In a society where religion and daily life were intricately woven together, any deviation from religious norms was seen as a direct affront to God. In addition to these religious pressures, Salem was experiencing social and economic instability. There were ongoing tensions between Salem Village and the nearby town of Salem Town, which had more wealth and power. Furthermore, the community had recently experienced devastating outbreaks of disease, as well as fears of attack from Native American tribes. This volatile environment created a fertile ground for suspicion, and when a group of young girls in Salem began exhibiting strange behaviors, the stage was set for tragedy. The young girls, including Betty Paris and Abigail Williams, began to have violent fits, convulsions, and trances. To the Puritans, these signs were clear evidence of possession by the devil. The fear of witchcraft in the community escalated rapidly, and accusations of witchcraft spread like wildfire. It wasn't long before the girls named several women in the community as witches, with Tituba, a slave from the Caribbean, being one of the first to be accused. This initial spark quickly grew into a full-fledged witch hunt. As more people were accused, more confessions were extracted, and the community's paranoia deepened. The trials were marked by irrational fear, the use of dubious evidence such as spectral evidence, claims that the spirits of the accused were seen committing witchcraft, and coerced confessions. It became a cycle of accusation, trial, and execution that spiraled out of control. One of the most enduring myths about the Salem witch trials is that the accused witches were burned at the stake. This image has been perpetuated in literature, film, and popular culture, and it's become synonymous with witch trials in general. However, this image does not accurately reflect what happened in Salem. In fact, none of the accused witches were executed by burning. Instead, the methods of execution included hanging, 19 people, and Giles Corey, who was pressed to death with heavy stones because he refused to enter a plea. This more extreme punishment, pressing, was reserved for Corey because he chose to remain silent, aiming to avoid forfeiting his property. The myth of burning at the stake is more likely drawn from European witch trials, where burning was indeed a common execution method for accused witches. In countries like England and France, accused witches were often executed by fire, but this practice was not employed in the American colonies. Instead, the Puritans in Salem adhered to the legal practices of their time, which focused on hanging as the primary form of capital punishment for serious crimes, including witchcraft. The Salem witch trials were not based on any solid evidence but on superstition, fear, and unreliable methods of judgment. One of the most significant aspects of the trials was the use of spectral evidence, which allowed witnesses to testify that they had seen the spirits or specters of the accused committing acts of witchcraft. This kind of evidence was highly subjective and impossible to verify, yet it played a major role in the convictions. Additionally, many of the accused witches were subjected to intense psychological pressure to confess. The fear of execution, combined with the intense religious pressure to admit guilt, led many people to falsely confess to witchcraft. Some even named others in an attempt to save themselves from death, contributing to the rapid spread of accusations. The trials were marked by a complete disregard for due process. There were no standard rules of evidence, and accusations were often based on personal grudges, jealousy, and long-standing family feuds. In the frenzy, even respected members of the community found themselves accused. For example, Sarah Good, a poor pregnant woman, was accused and hanged despite her strong protests of innocence. Likewise, Rebecca Nurse, a well-respected elder in Salem, was falsely accused and executed, even though many in the community believed her to be a good and godly woman. As the trials continued, the increasing number of accusations and executions began to generate doubts. Several prominent figures, including Cotton Mather, a minister who had initially supported the trials, began to question the fairness and validity of the proceedings. In October 1692, Governor William Phips intervened and halted the trials, eventually disbanding the court that had been hearing the witchcraft cases. Governor Phips acknowledged that the use of spectral evidence was problematic, contributing to the trial's end. The Salem Witch Trials ended in 1693, but the effects of the trials lingered for years. The survivors, as well as the families of those executed, were left to deal with the consequences of the hysteria. The court system that had once believed in the righteousness of the trials came to recognize the profound errors it had made. In 1702, the trials were declared unlawful and a formal apology was issued. In 1711, monetary compensation was given to the families of those wrongfully accused, further acknowledging the severe injustices committed during this period. The trials remain a cautionary tale about the dangers of mass hysteria, the abuse of power, and the need for fair and just legal systems. The Salem Witch Trials serve as a powerful lesson in the dangers of mass hysteria, mob mentality, and the violation of basic human rights. They remind us of the importance of due process, rational judgment, and the need to question unfounded accusations. In the years since the trials, the story of Salem has been retold through books, films, and plays, often emphasizing the fear and confusion that led to the tragic deaths of innocent people. However, the myth of burning at the stake continues to linger in popular culture, overshadowing the true methods of execution used during the trials. Thank you again for taking the time to explore the Salem Witch Trials and the myths surrounding them. We hope that this examination has helped clarify the facts and debunked some of the more persistent myths. Understanding this dark period in history is essential for learning the lessons it has to offer and for ensuring that similar injustices are never repeated. The Salem Witch Trials, though a product of fear and superstition, offer timeless insights into the dangers of mass hysteria, the importance of due process, and the need for rational, fair legal systems.